Go on, Topaz, you can say it. It's because I've got the moon cooties and you don't want to be around me when I start sprouting fangs again. Hey everyone, and welcome to October's TBR Assemble. If you don't know what TBR Assemble is, I'll leave a link up above to my original video where I do all the explanation for this, but it's essentially my Avengers based TBR game, which helps me pick my TBR each month. Now I'm also going to be doing Gothtober, so I'm going to show you my clicks through for that and the prompts I get, and then we're going to go into the roles. So let's get into it. So today we're going for a She-Hulk model like we have for the last couple of months, because we're still in She-Hulk season, and we're going to put her there where we were last time, and hopefully it's only going to be one or two rolls to get up to the A, and then I'm just going to be able to pick from any of these cards here for whatever I fancy reading. So let's go down roll number 1, and that is a 4, so that goes all the way over to there. So close yet so far. We're on to a sci-fi pick. Okay, that was not a good fan. Let's fan it out a bit better. I'm gonna go over here. This was the first one I landed on. She's Got Help, a new female author. My first prompt was She's Got Help, which is to read a new female author, so I'm going for Emerald Fennell, specifically her book Shiverton Hall. This is a spooky middle grade book that was actually gifted to me by Abby of Pelennor, so thank you very much, Abby, for gifting me this book. And this one is all about this sinister school, and we're following Arthur Bannister, who is the latest pupil to the school, and he's got to deal with the spine-chilling tales, evil spirits and unearthly noises of the school, but they are the least of his worries. It's his friends he actually needs to watch out for. I've heard that this is very, very, very spooky, and it sounds perfect for this time of year. I love a spooky middle grade, and it's also counted for the prompt of isolated setting. And next roll is a 2. So if we go up to there, I can now pick whatever I want because I've reached the Avengers A. So I'm going to go straight over here to my comic section. And we're going to pick this way, and I'm going to pick this one over here, Bucky, which is a physical comic. My next prompt was Bucky, which is to read a physical comic, so I'm going to be taking this opportunity to read the entire Something is Killing the Children series, which is all 4 volumes. I know I'm only supposed to really pick one book per prompt, but when it's comics, I allow myself to double, triple up and just basically use a ton of comics for each one. And this one is about a small town where there is a creature killing all of the children, and then we're following Erica Slaughter, who is a monster hunter who is working for this shady organisation trying to basically stop this monster from killing children. I loved the first volume when I read it last year, but I'm going to go back and reread it because it's been basically a year since I last read it, so I'm going to give it another go and reread basically the entire thing in one great big go, and I cannot wait. This series is spooky, it's gory, it is the perfect Halloween read. It is absolutely the perfect Halloween read, and I'm so excited to work my way through this series. And it's also counted for the prompt of multiple deaths, because even in the first volume there are multiple murders. I'm going to continue on with comics because I can, and I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to go for one of the clump in here, and I'm going to pick this one because it was the lowest one, and that is Deadpool, a non-Marvel comic. My next prompt was Deadpool, which is to read a non-Marvel comic, so I'm going for the Exorcisters series. This is a series about 2 girls who are actually one person split into 2. One's got the soul, one doesn't have the soul, essentially, and now they are essentially sort of like a monster detective agency kind of thing. They help people who have been cursed, and people who have been sent to hell, things like this. It's basically sort of like Supernatural, but with women, and a lot more fun, and I'm just very excited to read this one. I loved the first volume when I read it a couple of years ago now. I'm going to be rereading the first one and then reading the second one as well because I have forgotten everything. I just know that I really enjoyed it. The art style in here is also really good fun as well, and it's just generally, it's going to be a slightly more light-hearted spooky read, which is definitely something I'm going to be needing in amongst all of the rest of the spooky I'm reading this month. Next we're going for retellings because I do have a couple of retellings in mind that I'd like to read. There's one specifically I definitely want to get on my Gothtober TBR, so let's hope this works. I'm going to go here, and that is Sylvie, a female-led retelling. That fits perfectly. My next one was Sylvie, which is a female-led retelling, so I'm going for The Grimrose Girls. This is about a group of girls who are in a school, and there are murders, and it turns out that each one is tied to a ancient fairy tale curse, and their own fates are tied to the stories, dooming the girls to brutal and gruesome endings unless they can break the cycle for good. I am absolutely here for this. I love dark retellings. I'm not entirely sure which retellings it is. I think there's Cinderella in here, can't quite remember. Either way, I know that there are going to be fairy tales in this, and it's also accounting for the disability and LGBTQI plus representation as well for Gothtober, because I can't remember exactly what rep there is in here, but Hannah recommended it for those two prompts, so that's why I'm going for it. We're also going to go for fantasy as well, because it's not a TBR for me without some fantasy in there, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to pick this one, and that is Makari, a quick read. My next prompt is Makari, which is a quick read, so I'm going for Werewolf by Night. This is a Marvel series all about Jack Russell. Literally, he's called Jack Russell, and he is a werewolf. And the reason why I'm reading this is, one, it's Halloween, and two, the movie Werewolf by Night, or the episode special thing, is also coming out in October, so I'm going to be doing a full reading vlog about Werewolf by Night. So that's why I'm going to be reading it. I'm very excited. I haven't actually heard that much about Werewolf by Night, but I know that the special is supposed to be really, really good, and I always like to read stuff around these sort of adaptations and things like this, and I also know that it's just werewolves. It's just werewolves. I'm here for werewolves and all of that spooky stuff. It is the season. I'm just very excited to get into the world of more sort of Marvel horror type stuff, because I haven't really explored that yet, so that's what I'm going for. And then we're finally going to go for own voices, because then I've picked something from everything essentially, so let's go. I'm going to go over here. That's where my finger landed, and that is Jimmy Woo, an Asian author or main character. And then my final prompt was Jimmy, an Asian author / main character, so I'm going for Babel, because everyone is talking about Babel right now. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I'm very excited to read it because it just sounds amazing. I'm ordering this off Waypoint, which is Hannah, who is the host and creator of Gothtober's shop, which I'll leave the link to down below so you can check it out and order your own books from there. She does ship internationally, if I remember rightly, so if you're not in the UK, just make sure with that one, but I'm pretty sure she does ship internationally as well, so if you're outside of the UK, get your Gothtober reads. It's still from Waypoint. Either way, Babel is a dark academia, and I can't remember anything else about it. I've just heard amazing things and a hell of a lot of hype, so I'm going for it. And it's also going to be counting for the BIPOC author prompt for Gothtober. And now on to the things that are not part of my TBR Assemble, but they are part of Gothtober and just generally my spooky reading list. So the first one is going to be My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is for the Reader Slasher prompt. This is also for the Avengers Reading Challenge. It's the group book for October, so I'm going to be reading this audibly, and I'm very excited for it. I've heard quite a few good things about Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm just here for trying out slashers, things like this. I've never actually tried reading one before, so this is going to be an interesting experiment. I then have The School for Good and Evil. This one is about two girls. They are sent to the School for Good and Evil. One expects to be going to the princess line and the good line, and the other one expects to be going to the bad villainous line, but in the end they end up going to the opposite ones, which is why I'm including this as a book with a plot twist. I know that is the main plot point, but that's what I'm going for. I am bending the rules a little bit because I don't know what book is going to have a plot twist in it, so I'm going for one that I know has a twist on the usual type of story. That's all I really know. I also know that the adaptation is coming out in October on Netflix. I'm very, very excited to be watching that because it's got several of my favourite actors in there. So I'm excited to see the adaptation, read the book, see what all the hype is about, because I've heard a lot of hype around the series. I've just never read it, so it's about time I finally got to it. Then for the comforting author, I'm going for Tom Fletcher's Space Band, which comes out in the month of October. This one is basically about the worst band in the world being beamed up into space, and they end up essentially joining an intergalactic battle of the bands competition. That's all I really know. That's all I really want to know. I'm just very excited to read this book. I love Tom so much. He is one of my favourite people on the planet. He is a member of McFly, which is my favourite band of all time. I absolutely adore him and the rest of his band members. And also this is a middle grade, which I always love. I always find middle grade comforting. And also there is an album that goes with this because him and his band members actually recorded the songs that are mentioned in the book, including songs about pigeons and the fact that nothing rhymes with sausage. There is several other songs on there. I'm just very excited all round. I'm just very excited for this all round, as I always am for a new Tom book. So excited to see exactly how this one turns out, and just sort of take a break from the spooky for a minute and just go into sci-fi of all things, and weird sci-fi. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. And then my final prompt was weapon on the cover, so I'm going for Only Ashes Remain. This one is the sequel to Not Even Bones, which is part of the Market of Monsters series, which is following a young girl called Nina who is a monster and lives in a world of monsters. Essentially, her mum then hunts down more obvious monsters, sends them to Nina, who dissects them. They then sell the products on the black market, and what happens one day when Nina is kidnapped and sold on the black market. I love the first book. I always describe it as Wednesday Addams' perfect book, and this just sounds absolutely brilliant as well. I am so excited to continue this series and continue on with that spooky vibes. There are monsters, there is gore in terms of dissection, all the rest of it, general dark themes. It's just perfect for this time of year. It is absolutely perfect for this time of year, and I cannot wait. And as for the weapon on the cover, in the ashes there is a dagger, therefore I'm counting it, even though it's more not where the ashes aren't. It's a dagger. I'm counting it. And then we have some more comics, because of course I have more comics, because this is me. So the first set I've got to talk about is more She-Hulk comics. I am still working my way through She-Hulk because obviously the show is still airing. The final 3 episodes, I think it is, are airing in October, so I'm going to be reading obviously more She-Hulk. I will also be probably reading Daredevil if Daredevil turns up in this final 3 episodes. Essentially, whenever he turns up, I will be reading some Daredevil as well. They're not spooky, but it's still in keeping with everything else, and I will also be uploading my vlog for She-Hulk in October as well, so look out for that. On top of that, I've also got Man-Thing, who is going to be turning up in Werewolf by Night, so he will be included in my comics read for Werewolf by Night. I don't really know much about Man-Thing, further than the fact that he is, I think he's the nexus to all realities, if I remember rightly, which is a incredible thing to say, because we've got a lot of nexus stuff happening around the MCU at the moment, so that's exciting. I also have Elsa Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone is essentially a monster hunter of the Marvel Universe, and she swears a lot. She's a badass. I met her originally in the A-Force series. She was in the 3rd and final volume, if I remember rightly, and I really enjoyed her character then. I love a monster hunter character, and I love one that's just basically reminds me a bit of the Rat Queen. She reminds me a bit of the Rat Queen, so very excited for that. I loved her character so much in A-Force, so I'm excited to get to know her a bit better. And I'm also reading her because A, it's seasonally appropriate, and B, because she's also going to be in Werewolf by Night. And then the final thing I have is Victor LaValle's Destroyer. This one is an Own Voices for the Black representation retelling of Frankenstein, and I am here for it, essentially. I'm just here for it, so I made sure to fit that in as well. Editing Becca quickly coming in here to say that I forgot about the Gothic mood read prompt, and my different options that I've got are Final Girls by Myra Grant, aka Shauna Maguire. I don't really know much about this book, further than the fact that it's a novella, so it's the shortest option I've got, and it's about final girls, and seeing as Gothtober is about final girls, it sounded appropriate. I've also got Deathless Girls, which is, I think, a retelling of The Wives of Dracula, if I remember rightly. Hannah really recommends this one. I've ordered it off Waypoint, so that's why it's on the list. And then I also have Reluctant Vampire Queen. Again, I don't really know much about this one. I've just ordered it off Waypoint, and it's essentially like a vampire YA story about a teenager who doesn't really want to be the queen of the vampires, but is kind of being forced into it, essentially. So that is my 3 separate Gothic mood read options. I don't know which one I'm going to go for. I'm leaning more towards Final Girls at the moment, but we'll see how the months go. And that is my absolutely massive TBR. I mean, it doesn't look too bad here, but when you include, My Heart is a Chainsaw, Babel, Space Band, everything else, it starts getting a little bit much. But it works out at 153 pages a day, which is pretty doable. It's pretty doable, but we'll see. We'll absolutely see. That is not including any of the comics, which is going to take up a lot of time. So this may not actually be doable. I'll see how I do. And that is where I'm going to leave this video here. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me which book you're really excited to read in October. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a vampire related emoji down below to let me know that you were here. And also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is going to have a ton of stuff on Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night, Elsa Bloodstone, She-Hulk, Daredevil, all of that good stuff if you're interested in that. I'll also leave a link as well down below to my Etsy and Redbubble store, which sells bookish merch if you're interested in that, or if you just want to see any more of my videos and see how well I do with this TBR, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. Until next time everyone, bye!